Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stories from the Dirt. Of course, me and Avis are here with you today. And today we actually have a special guest, Azure O'Neil. She is from Overland Expo and also another fellow rebel. Hey, Azure.
Hey there. Thank you guys so much for having me.
I'm so glad. It looks so beautiful, your background. It looks like you're in the tropical oasis there.
It does feel a little bit like a tropical oasis today. We were getting like the nice Florida weather that people actually live here for, not
Nice.
the crazy stormy weather version of Florida.
The hurricanes.
Yeah, that.
So tell us
Nice.
a little bit about yourself, Azure.
Sure. I am the director of programming for Overland Expo, which I absolutely love my job because it is how I got to meet both of you initially, and super love the community as well. I came to Overland Expo in 2017 professionally, but I had actually begun attending Overland Expos as a speaker in 2013 because I was in the middle of traveling around the world on my 1989 Honda Transalp motorcycle. So that was kind of how I came to the event. I love all things overland and am beginning and learning to love all things off-road as well. It's been such a fun learning curve for me to learn how to enjoy off-road in a four-wheel capacity in addition to a two-wheel capacity. So much
They're
fun.
definitely different.
Very different. Very different.
Nice. I don't really enjoy the two-wheel capacity, so I will have to just imagine that that's enjoyable to some people.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
initially I did not enjoy it. And then once I kind of like started to get the hang of things, it's kind of like similar to, I think, what we experience with the Rebel or what a lot of women experience with the Rebel, where it's kind of like things that like you have that you're fearful of or you don't feel super confident with when you like master those skills, it just gives you such a tremendous boost of confidence and it kind of like unlocks these new layers of fun to be had. So I
nice.
yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
conquer the around the world travel on your motorcycle?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like uh, when Charlie, Patty Upton calls them challenges. And I think that, I don't know, you can say you conquer anything, but I think that um, I certainly experienced my fair share of challenges. And I think conquering a challenge really is just learning as much as you can from it and growing as much as you can through it. So I will definitely say yes to
I
that
love
aspect
that.
of conquering it. But
I
So
love that
I
thought
re
process.
I recently read an article that Ashley Giordano of Expedition Portal posted on March 20th, 2025, and you were interviewed for this article. And it says, Azure traveled the world by boat in 2005 and has overlanded through 31 countries. 31 countries? Wow. Funding, and I enjoyed this part too. Funding her travels by taking on odd jobs such as harvest winemaking, swabbing decks of scuba diving boats, and reporting for a TV news station while abroad for your local hometown. That sounds like an amazing amount of fun. I mean, yes, there's got to be challenges involved, but just 31 countries doing whatever odd job you could come up with. Is that the story there?
yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, actually, throughout, it was a little bit more focused than like odd job, but I think a lot of times when you're, traveling and you're kind of open to opportunities and saying yes to experiences that may be out of your wheelhouse, I think there are a lot of kind of random things that happen or seemingly random things that happen.
Hmm.
When I was in Washington, D.C., prior to kind of launching my like extended world travels, I was working part time for a friend who had a wine shop. It was kind of my side hustle. And he was the one who got me my first job working as a harvest winemaker in Australia. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. I was totally like burned out on this, Washington, D.C., 80-hour a week, work cycle. And, you know, gosh, digging in dirt and like picking through insects and doing like all the crazy things you do during a wine harvest just totally flipped my world upside down. And I was like, I just want to keep doing this. And so it was kind of like became this evolving lack of life plan that turned into somewhat of a plan of like, okay, how do I do more of this? How do I like keep on this path of doing work that feels fulfilling and that really also feels magical at the same time? And so it led to my first overland trip, really. It would probably be classified more as like a car camping trip. But I bought a Toyota Camry off of a friend of mine at work, and I proceeded to drive it around Australia. And
That sounds amazing.
yeah, and I was really into scuba diving at the time, still am. But I was like, well, I can't be in Australia and, be on the same continent, as the Great Barrier Reef is off of and not go do that. And so I drove up there. And of course, by the time I made it there, I was like, probably be good to make some money. And so the next opportunity was working on a scuba boat, and then things just kind of transpired from there. But wine was kind of the common theme and thread throughout most continents, which was fantastic. It's a pretty cool community, kind of like the Overland community. It kind of has its own um, flavor of folks who also move around the world in kind of similar time patterns. So it's a neat space too.
I can see you either on the I Love Lucy show, like the mushing of the grapes. I can see that picture in my head.
Yeah.
And then I'm also thinking Julia Roberts, the Eat, Love, Pray. Like I feel like a combination of that.
That's really sweet. I've never thought about that, but yeah, it was in a lot of ways. I think it was that combination. Definitely like the hilarity and the mishaps of Lucille Ball. That was definitely a common thread.
I mean, you gotta
The
have the fun,
visuals, the
right?
visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And
welcome.
then, so during this part, are you solo adventuring? You're just out there on your own as a single female?
So I started in Australia out there on my own as a single female, bought the car by myself, did all the, most of the south and eastern and northern parts of Australia solo. And then I met a guy who had traveled overland from Holland to Australia on his motorcycle. And I jumped on the back of his motorcycle and he invited me on a trip through the middle of Australia. And that kicked off 6 years of traveling together by motorcycle. I eventually got my own motorcycle and had my own adventure on my bike, and then did some solo traveling on my motorcycle afterwards as well.
Wow.
So
Were you always wanting to go like travel on your motorcycle? Or have you always grown up with motorcycles and that whole scene?
not really. I mean, my dad did have a motorcycle when I was growing
Okay.
up, but I definitely always both my parents were big travelers when they were younger, and I had grown up with stories of my dad, hiking up to Mount Everest base camp and, traveling overland from, between Europe and Asia. And so I'd grown up with these kind of wild, amazing travel stories. And so that was very much a part of kind of my reality as a child, was that like, okay, these things are possible. I can go travel places. I can do things. I don't need to just, fly here and fly back. I could do, more extended trip. So I'm grateful that I grew up with that as a possible reality, because when I kind of got sick of the burnout scenario in DC, it was like, okay, what
Hmm.
am I going to do? And I, like most people after going to college, I had loans and I had commitments and I had a career that I had started. And so to kind of be able to think, okay, how do I like break out of this mold that I've created for myself? It was really
Hmm.
nice to be able to kind of think about, okay, my dad did something similar. And, it may have derailed his life a little bit, but he turned out
Yeah,
pretty well. And I appreciated the upbringing I had. Um, so I just kind of, yeah, wanted to take a little bit of a turn, and then traveling by motorcycle really was such a dynamic experience. I love overlanding in any form or fashion. And I think there are pluses and minuses to two wheels or four wheels,
right.
anything. But just the vulnerability of being on a motorcycle while traveling is
Hmm.
really, I think, special. I think obviously, like, you're vulnerable in all of the not so nice ways. Like if it rains, you get wet. If it's hot, you're hot. If you're cold, you're cold, kind of thing.
Yep.
But also just, stopping at gas stations. People see you as being very vulnerable. So they start chatting with you about your travels. And um, I've just met so many incredible people who I don't think would have spoken with me if I, was inside of a vehicle. And instead, I was kind of out and open to the world, really. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow, that's my part. My problem with the motorcycles is the whole exposure and the whole I might break a bone. And then a friend of ours crashed his bike and he broke 8 bones at once. And I was like, oh, wow, I thought I was gambling with one bone at a time. I could be breaking more than one bone. I don't know, guys. Think about,
It's
think about,
definitely a risk.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're, pardon me if that offends you. You're short like me, right? Aren't you? You're not tall.
I would
So
not say you're
riding,
short.
Not offended at all. We are vertically challenged, and that is just fine.
yeah.
But yes,
Actually, you're not that
for
short.
sure.
I feel like you're not that short. You're not short as Avis.
I don't know. I'm 5'3¾".
Okay, so
I'll take every
you're
quarter.
between Kara and I.
Okay.
Yeah,
How tall are
yeah.
Yeah,
you, Avis?
I'm 5'2".
Okay. What are you, five
Yeah,
six, Kara?
I'm 5'8".
Oh God. Okay, because I feel like you're really tall, but
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. But anyways, as a vertically challenged human being, it's hard to ride a full-size bike. Um, and so how do you deal with that? Like, especially if you're overlanding on it. I mean, I just tried to ride a bike with me and my being on it, no food or clothing or camping gear. Like, what's involved in those challenges?
I mean, I fell down a lot.
Oh, well, same.
I think it's just you have to be super aware of what you're doing. And very cognizant of where you're stopping, you just have to think differently. And I think, we talk a lot, now the three of us have talked a lot about like women who wander in the programming we do at Overland
Yeah.
Expo in that space, and just kind of how there are some things as women in the overland space that you just have to really think about differently. And I remember, water crossings were always really difficult for me. And I remember going through with several men, and I was the last one to go through because they were like, oh, watch us go and you can follow our line, right? And I watched every single one of them put their foot down multiple times as they were doing this river crossing, if they got hung up
Yeah.
on something to like scoot the bike around and do whatever. And I
Mhm.
got through and I looked at all of them and I was like, I counted like 16 times that you guys put your feet down. And I was like, I can't do that. So next time I drop my bike during a river crossing, let's cut me a little bit of slack. And they were all like, oh yeah, our boots are all like soaking wet. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah. So I don't know. I think it was just one of those things where eventually like off-road, riding for me, it was something that when I finally got the hang of knowing how to stop, where to stop, when to stop, so I wouldn't topple over if I needed to put my feet down. That was a huge thing for me. That just it seems like such a little thing, and it's probably something that like people who don't have issues with, length of their legs on a
Mhm.
motorcycle don't even think about. But it's tough. It's for sure. It
I know
was
Yeah.
as I know as like the driver for the rally, even if we're off-roading, you have to learn the spatial awareness of your vehicle. And I can't think of the girl's name that's like what, like 4'10", 5 foot that drives the African Twin motorcycle. You probably
Yeah.
know who I'm talking about. She's like famous. And so she does all of like the motorcycle rallies, but she, has learned her motorcycle
Mhm.
and like it's getting that seat time and just having those trainings and the knowledge there to go behind it. I mean, I think you do have to alter how you do things, but and that's the good part of it. Like I can tell my husband, like, that's great that you can do it that way, but it may not work for me.
Yeah.
Um, and just getting out there and doing it. So it's cool.
For sure.
Yeah. How long have you
Okay.
been riding for, Kara? I read like
Yeah, I've only been
when you
riding for
started in.
probably about 2 or 3 years.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, so I have the KTM 390. He has a 690, and then I have a Honda Trail. It was a 125, but I big bored it to a 181.
Nice.
So it's
They're
fun.
such great bikes.
Yeah, and it's pink like my Jeep, so
Perfect.
Of course it
yeah.
is.
It was great because Matt needed to take my Jeep to go have it re-geared this past week, and he didn't have a way to come back home, and he was like, "I'll just ride." It's called Fancy. We name our vehicles, and so Fancy. And so he was like, "I'll just ride Fancy." So if you can imagine, he's 6'2", and I mean it's like a Honda 125 little CC. Like it's like a monkey on a scooter, but it's pink, and he's got the blue hair, but he has a helmet on. But oh yeah, I'm sure that was a grand
That's
visual for
fantastic.
people. I know. It was great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question and now I lost it. That
Well, I'll
happens to
fill
me all the
I'll
time.
fill in a question real quick because you mentioned Azure that the being on the motorcycle, it makes you exposed to elements, whereas you get that connected, one on one with your bike because you're on it. I know you had mentioned for the rally in the competition side for that you did not feel connected to your third teammate. So tell me how the difference there.
I mean, I think, to some degree, I did feel connected to our third teammate, but
Okay.
I'm also just like, I am very tentative and timid when it comes to like driving vehicles. Like, I
Okay.
am not aggressive at all. I am like, spatially, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like I have some form of claustrophobia where it's like I always think the vehicle is so much larger than it is. And it's like when I'm trying to like, pick a path, I'm just kind of like, oh gosh, I don't think I'm going to be able to like fit between those rocks. And it's like in reality, there's plenty of room.
Hmm.
So that's, part of the reason why like I don't think there was ever any question that Eva wasn't going to be our driver and I wasn't going to be the navigator. But it's like I was so grateful that there was never a day where I had to drive for us because like I'm afraid of heights. I don't
Oh,
trust
really?
vehicle. Oh, terrified. I almost went off of a cliff in Peru. So it kind of like it's been an
It's leg-
issue
it's
ever since.
it's validated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I would just have been a terrible driver. And so, the fact that she just had such a great handle on like, how far she could push that truck and like everything. I mean, she danced with our truck, which was really beautiful to be a part
Oh.
of. And when I needed to close my eyes, I could close my eyes. So it was fine.
Well, speaking of vertically challenged, I tall drivers see so much more out of a vehicle than short drivers. When our kids were learning to drive, they're on the girls are shorter like I am, and my husband put our oldest in all these different cars, and he would say, "Can you see over the hood?" I was like, "See over the hood? We can't even see the hood." Like, if you knew what short people couldn't actually see out of a vehicle, you would be terrified to ride with us. Like, it is terrifying. People are like, "Oh, can't you see the hood?" No, I can't see the hood.
Hence why Avis
Never
is the
happened.
driver or the navigator.
It's perfect. Easier to focus on the horizon that way.
Exactly. Uh, anyways,
That's so
yeah. And
funny.
so the vehicle that you guys drive, are you competing again this year, correct?
Yeah.
You would,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
exciting. Because last year, we'll get into that, there was some tragedy around not being able to compete, Mother Nature. But it's not your vehicle. Neither of you actually own it. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we
Oh, I
kind of
didn't know that.
yeah, we kind of had a crazy lead up to our first Rebel. So I worked for Overland Expo. Eva at the time also worked for Overland Expo, and they had wanted to support a Rebel team. Well, between them deciding to support a Rebel team and like May, we'll say, Overland Expo is acquired, and the new company was not able to figure out a way to make it work liability wise to support current employees in the Rebel. So we kind of were left with, we were supposed to be getting a vehicle through that sponsorship. We were supposed to be fully sponsored through that. And we were kind of left like with like, oh gosh, okay, like we've committed to doing this. We've like told everyone we're doing this. And it was like literally the week before Overland Expo West where they were like, listen, we've really tried to figure out how we could do this, but we just can't. And even I were devastated. We had done a Rebel U training. We had like drank the Kool-Aid. We were super excited. And we told everyone, and we were like starting to like promote before Overland Expo. And it was just like, oh my gosh. So we get to Overland Expo and we're seeing all these people and they're like, oh my gosh, you so excited for the Rebel. And we're both like, yeah. We're
It's
just like, what are we
great.
gonna do? And Eva's got like an older truck and I had an SUV over here, but I was just like, what are we going to do? And we, kind of were in a serious quandary. And one of our friends slash coworkers was telling other friends slash coworkers about it. And, people we've worked with for years between the two of
Mhm.
us. And our dear friend, Mark, stepped up and he was like, I've got a truck you can use. And he was like, and I've always wanted to support a Rebel team. And he was like, I'd be honored to support you guys. So it was really like just an
Wow.
incredible blessing and just a super kind thing for him to do. But he is one of the most I was about to say a swear word, but he's like one of the most like batty human beings you'll ever meet. He is an incredible human when it comes to like off-road driving and um, just shenanigans. This man is a whiz, and we feel so fortunate because I mean, all of his vehicles are really kitted out, but his Land Cruiser is really just. I mean, it's completely dialed in. And I remember, the first time he walked us through everything in the vehicle and pulling out like the entire recovery kit and like every tool you could imagine needing or wanting, in your vehicle to do repairs roadside. I mean, it was just like, oh gosh, like this is better than we could have imagined. So that
That's
was
incredible.
really, yeah, really incredible for us. And it was just, for us at Overland Expo, those of us who have been working for the organization for a long time, and even those who are newer, it really becomes a family. And that in that moment, we just, obviously we're both just like bawling our eyes out, but it's just like feeling so supported by, your community and the people that you come together with and, shed blood, sweat, and tears with for 4 or 5 days at a time, a few times a year. And just, those friendships
Mhm.
transcending like this event space that we all come together for. It was a pretty cool moment.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
Okay, so back to last year and your inability to compete because of Mother Nature. Just walk us through that whole thing because it was very like last minute and I'm sure devastating on multiple levels.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough year to be in Southwest Florida. We
Mm.
had like a crazy tropical storm to kick off the season that like we really didn't even get any warning about the severity of, and so a lot of us had flooding from that. I had a little bit of flooding and a little bit of damage from that, but it wasn't too bad. And then we had another hurricane hit, and that was the one that did so much damage in North Carolina. But we also had some pretty serious damage here. And I actually had a fairly sizable branch from a tree bust through my roof during that hurricane. And
Oh,
so had tarps on my roof. It was just, okay, this is something I'm going to have to deal with. But I had Overland Expo East coming up, and then literally like the Sunday of Overland Expo East, they let me dip out of my like tear down responsibilities a little bit early so I can fly to Arizona and rendezvous with Eva to take our truck to the starting point for the Rebelle. So it was kind of going to be all these boom boom boom,
Yeah.
and I'm at, Overland Expo East. I'm talking with all of these people from North Carolina who have come up, who have, friends and family who have been directly impacted by the hurricane there and just, dealing with loss of life and loss of businesses and homes and the whole 9 yards. And I'm talking to them, and suddenly people start saying, well, aren't you worried about your house right now? And I was like, well, I have tarps over it. It's okay. And they're like, well, didn't you see there's another hurricane coming? And I was like, what? And I just, at Overland Expos are pretty all encompassing, for those of us who are
Yeah.
working. I think even for attendees, it's like pretty overwhelming. And I just hadn't looked at the news, hadn't checked in at home. I was just kind of like heads down. And, and then it was, tracking that storm and just seeing what it was doing. It was like, okay, there's no way this is going to miss us.
Mm.
It's going to be a miracle if it misses us. And I mean, you guys know everything that goes into preparing for the Rebelle and,
Mhm.
all the time, the energy, the financial resources that are put towards it. I mean, we have, our sponsor, Mark, has like an incredible team of guys who help us with, any kind of modifications that we need to make to the vehicle. And so they'd been working really hard for us. And it was just like this incredible weight of like, I'm going to let all of these people down if I have to
Mm.
go home and deal with this hurricane. And, thinking I work in event world. Like I know what,
Yeah.
cancellation policies are when you get that close to an event. And so I just felt sick to my stomach for about 24 hours. And I called Eva Sunday morning and I was just like, we had been texting or whatever, and I was just a complete mess. And I was just like, I have to go home. I have a family member here who I'm healthcare proxy and power of attorney for, who is in an assisted living facility, who's like right on the water, pretty much. Not right on the water, but like in a serious flood zone area. And I was just like, I can't not go home.
Hmm.
I mean, house is what it is. It's material stuff. It can be replaced, but I was like, I can't not be there for him in this scenario. So she was super understanding. Was like, whatever has to happen, like you've got to take care of your family, family first.
Yeah.
And that was that. And it was kind of like relief that she was so supportive. And of course she would be. She's amazing. But then I was like, "Oh, God, like, are we going to be out, the the rally,
Registration.
like what's going to
Yeah.
happen there?" And I through tears wrote an email to Andrea and explained the situation, and she called me within 5 minutes. And this is Sunday before the rebel. This woman has like all the things in the world going on, and she called me, and she was incredibly nice and understanding, and told me that like it just wasn't even a consideration between her and Emily. Like, absolutely, we'll defer your registration to next year. Like, go take care of your family. Like, be where you need to be. And that was just like, I think any of us who have done the Rebel or have dreamed of or have done a Rebel U have incredible respect for Emily and the team she's built. But in that moment, it was just like
Hmm.
the sense of relief, but also like the sense of gratitude and just like feeling, oh, wow, this is like such an honorable organization, and just
Hmm.
total respect and admiration for them.
It's
Because I,
beyond the registration fees and everything. Like
yeah,
they care about you.
yeah, they care about you as a human, and like, and that was just, super super kind. And I know that, there were other women in a similar
Hmm.
position. um I don't know that those other women wound up being in on a street that was literally like a half mile away from where the hurricane was a direct hit, but all of us
Hmm.
had like crazy stuff to deal with, and we saw what these hurricanes did when they, wound up traveling inland and just creating such havoc
Yeah.
hundreds of miles away from where they come ashore. So it was just really super kind, and I'm just very very grateful for their understanding.
Yeah.
Very
Now
grateful.
you get to compete in the 10th year anniversary.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo.
I know, super excited. And I'm also
I do
like,
have,
yep, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I'm also really excited because, at Overland Expo East, prior to finding out about like the hurricane that was on its way and all of that, I'd been talking with Patty and Connie a lot. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't know if we'll be able to do it again the next year. And I was like kind of bumming about that, and like already having like major FOMO that I wasn't going to be able to, compete with Patty and Connie. And then it was like, okay, like after everything and like getting home and kind of in the lead up to the hurricane actually landing, it was just thinking of all of the silver linings of
Hmm.
this. And I'm really excited. I think it'll be a really fun year to compete, and I'm really excited to get to compete with you all.
I'm a firm
Nice.
believer that like silver linings, happy coincidence. I think everything happens for a reason and it all works out. Even like your travel across the world, how you said you were able to find these jobs to do. Like I think everything lines up perfectly according to a bigger plan. But I think that us, all three of us, were there at the beginning of Connie and Patty, and so we were all like just watching them, but we're like, yes.
Yeah. Very exciting. Yeah, going back to Emily and her team, Emily has a lot of great, amazing skills, but in my experience with her and her team, I think one of her best skills is picking the right person for the job.
Mm,
Like, hands down, Andrea is meant to be in the position that she is because she is like that. You text her, she texts you back. If it's something serious, she picks up the phone and she calls you, right? And you can
Absolutely.
just feel the warmth through the phone. And I just think, and Melly and everybody, like everybody on her team is like handpicked for the perfect position. And I just love that about the rally.
yeah,
The tough people are in the jobs that need tough people, and the warm people are in the jobs that need warm people. And It's great. I was so happy to hear that they allowed for deferment for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it
I
was.
remember seeing Eva at Mammoth, and I was just like, "Where's Azure?"
No, we were like, "What
Similar.
are you why?" Because
Yeah,
she pulled in right
where are
after
you?
us.
Yeah, I was like,
And we were like,
you're a pair.
I
Where
was like,
y'all at?" And then
"Yeah,
she
where's
just was like,
Azure?"
"Nope." I was
Yeah.
like, I think I immediately texted you, Azure, because
You
I was
did.
just like, I was like, "No." I mean, I
Yeah.
understood, but then,
Well,
gosh.
and it just meant like it meant a lot to hear from you guys then because it was just like it was crazy here and it was really scary, but it was kind of like knowing what you all were going through. It was like, okay, that's really sweet. Thank you. Like it was a heavy time. But
Yeah, for sure.
And then did you end up with damage? You said you were, what did you just said one street over from dead
yeah,
center?
so like basically the I'm fortunately not close enough to the water. We were supposed to be in a flood zone. And we just got incredibly lucky because the storm wound up kicking a little bit south at the last minute. So it was actually more of a direct hit towards us than it was supposed to be. And because of that, we wound up not getting the storm surge that we otherwise would have gotten because that was predicted. And I don't live close to the water, like I'm, a 10-minute drive to the beach, but um, it would have been 5 streets past my house, the storm surge would have. So
Wow.
like as it is, like if I like turn my camera, like you can see the
Hmm.
holes in my ceiling still. Like so I'm still like most people still dealing with kind of like the insurance stuff and roof repair and replacement and whatnot. But it was pretty scary. It was pretty intense. I mean, I evacuated from my house just because it wasn't going to be safe to be here.
Hmm.
And was with my family, so that was good. And they live further inland and it's a little safer there, but it was pretty crazy. I've never been through anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
and it was
Wow.
nice to see the way people really did band together and
Hmm.
you know, met a lot more neighbors that way.
I'm
Everyone's out,
sure.
playing pickup sticks for days and days and days and days, and so that was nice. But it was definitely wild, and definitely have such respect for the linemen and the tree workers who came out here and got everyone back online because you know people don't think about when you lose power for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days and what that actually means, especially in a place where our population is the median age is so much higher and it skews pretty elderly, so many people relying on oxygen and
Hmm.
whatnot. I had a family friend who wound up in the ER that week for something completely not related, but just going into the ER and seeing all of these people there just because they
They
like
don't have the
needed
resources.
oxygen. It was
Yeah.
really it was tough to see. But so the line workers and all those guys who got down here and rallied, it was pretty amazing to see.
Nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Community will sometimes surprise us in the best ways possible, right?
Yep.
That's always amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving forward, looking forward to this year's rally.
Yeah.
So the last 2 years, even though you didn't compete last year, the 100 series came with a pretty sweet wrap both years. Are we re-wrapping it this year? Is there a theme?
I think that we are going to stick with the wrap that we currently have. We both
Okay.
really love the current wrap,
It's pretty
and
sweet.
yeah, we really like it. So I think we're going to try to stick with it.
And the name is what? Let me think if I can remember. Princess Aloha?
Princess Aloha. Yes, that is our third teammate's name.
Where did that
Good
name
memory.
come from?
So our original wrap was like a purple camo, and we just felt like she was very Hawaiian, and so Princess Aloha felt right. And
That's
Mark's
awesome.
daughter also has like a history of like naming the vehicles, and we were like, we think she'd like it if it was Princess something. So it was like, all right, Princess Aloha. There we go.
Nice. I like it. I like it.
So two
Um,
years ago, that was your first rally, right?
Yeah.
So did you always know that Eva was going to be your person? Like, how did your teamship come? I know y'all both worked for the expo, so maybe that was organic there, but
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I mean, so living on the East Coast and being primarily a motorcyclist, I'd heard about the rally, but it wasn't like really super on my radar, in terms of something like that I definitely wanted to do. Um, and I knew that like Eva and another woman who previously worked for Overland Expo had talked about doing the rally someday. This other woman had left. And so when the opportunity came up, they were talking with Eva and they were like, hey, we know this is something you were interested in. Like, do you still want to do it? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And they were like, well, we were thinking about Azure for, your navigator. Would you be cool with that? And she's like, oh my God, absolutely, which is very sweet. But we're just like generally, we work super well together. So it was kind of I'm not going to say a no brainer, but it was a pretty natural pairing.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so how did that play out in the car? Was it all sugar and sweet, or were there some spicy moments?
I think so. It was pretty funny. So what is it? Is it day 3 where everyone typically breaks
Yeah, they
down?
call it day 3.
Day
Mhm.
3.
It
Okay,
could be
so
day 2, it could be day 4, but they call it day 3, yeah.
yeah. So wait, did you just hold up day 4, Kara?
That
Yeah.
was me
Yeah. So that was
last year.
us too. And we made it through day 3 and we're like, yeah, like we're not gonna have a day 3.
And then next day, boom.
Yeah, and then the next day, boom. And it was super interesting, like, because I think that, we had gotten along so well and there were like a lot of things that we gelled on really easily and that were like effortless. But for me, when I get like super stressed out, I realized through the rally and like this experience, I think I kind of like revert into this like intensity that my dad exhibits when he gets stressed out. So I grew up with, my parents divorced when I was like super young. So I would split time between the two of them. And
Mhm.
my dad was a private flight instructor at the time. So I grew up in the back seat of these little Cessna planes where, well, he was instructing students how to fly.
Oh
And
my
so if there
gosh.
was like if there was like an intense situation or he was like giving, direct orders, he gets like very intense. And my dad is like a very, like all the men in my family are like just they're very intense, but there's a tone of voice that they take on that's like, it's like
It's
you pay
terrifying.
attention and you do the thing that you have to do that they're telling you to do because there's like no other way, right? So I grew up like hearing that from my dad, and it was never something that was like, meant to be demeaning or offensive towards his students. It was literally just like, okay, you need to bank the plane at like this angle now,
It's
or we're going to
serious.
crash, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
obviously he'd take the controls, he wouldn't let us crash, but it was like that. And so it was so interesting because I think there are very few circumstances in life that like put you into a situation like the Rebelle where you're under like pretty significant pressure for an extended period of time and you're teamed up with someone who like may feel that pressure differently. And so whatever it was about day 4 and the way things were working or not working or whatever, we got to a point where I was like in that zone where I was like,
Mhm.
okay, like I don't know if we were going to miss a green checkpoint or whatever it was, but I was like, whatever. And I just like had no concept of it. And so I felt terrible because, Eva was very upset by that, understandably. But it really like our communication about it was so good. We were so direct with one another. And it really like, I'm so grateful to her for communicating the way she did because it really helped me recognize what was happening and grow and hopefully never do that to her ever again. So we'll see. But it was like weird because I did not know that I really had that in me. So
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting. But yeah,
That's
Yeah.
that
but
sounds
yeah.
like a great teammate though, to be able
Yeah.
to meet you and tell you, honest, like on that front end side of things, but then also in a way that you can not shut down or,
Yeah.
react.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It was great because it was like, she was like, am I doing something wrong? Like, do you want me to be doing something differently? And I was like, no, like, why? What? And it was like, I just had zero, I like to generally consider myself to be pretty self aware. And I had like zero self awareness about it. So it was super interesting. I did a
So
lot of
I'm making
journaling
notes
about that that night.
like say hi to Azure at the beginning of the rally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Rarely are we in a position, especially we paid to be there, right? We chose this, and just emotionally, physically, mentally, like it's so exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I think it affects people in different ways. I remember, at the Women Who Wander event where, Patty and Connie paired up. I remember we were talking about, I can't remember what question it was when we were talking, doing our chat about the Rebelle. And Kristen was like, "Oh, well, this is like nothing for me. This is like, the Rebelle's like a walk in the park." She's like, "I work in an ER like trauma bay." And I was like, "Okay, well, I could not take that stress. That would not be my chosen line, profession." But it was
Mm.
kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it does just affect everyone differently, but it is a lot of
But
pressure, I think,
even
any way,
even
shape,
that
or
is different because, like, you're in the ER, you're dealing with other people's stress. Like, it's life or
It's
death
not
for
yours.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
right?
true.
It's not your interpersonal relationship with this person that you thought was gonna be the best person in the world to be in the car with, and then here you are stuck with them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I I have a hard time keeping my giggles in when the rookies are like, "We're bestest friends. We're not gonna argue at all. It's gonna be great." And I'm like, "Yeah, you might want to come up with a safe word because that's not reality.
Yeah.
Like that is just not reality. And very few people cruise through the rally without at least a little bit of a heated or spicy situation, you know. And I think knowing how to figure that out and work through it is definitely key.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
that's
why I
what
always
Emily
like to
says.
ask.
Yeah, Emily says on the Dead Reckoning, the docu-series or whatever on YouTube that you go out for a weekend. Like you can do that and then come back to reality. But then you like do this for 8 days. Like it's a lot. And I think that's
Yeah.
a whole nother aspect that this rally offers us to experience. I don't I think it's a growing opportunity. It sometimes in the hardest day of day four, it sucks, but it also reveals a lot about yourself and your teammate that you've chosen, just how they can react to things and how you need to be fed, as well during the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
You want
great.
to know the good things about yourself? Do the rally. You want to know the worst things about yourself? Do the
A
rally.
rally.
That's for sure. It was so good. I mean, I think it was so interesting for me because like I think what I didn't expect to learn is what I learned and what I was challenged with, really. Like, the navigation, all of that, that's going to be challenging. There are going to be days where like you're going to be tested and tried in those ways. But um like I'm super conflict avoidant. So just sitting in a car with someone and being stuck in that car with someone and like, okay, we've got to get through this and like we have to deal with this now because we've got other stuff to work on was like such an incredible moment of okay, this sucks, this is uncomfortable, but like it's so much better to just deal with this and maybe this is how I need to deal with life moving forward. So
Right?
it's been
I
like
know.
okay. So yeah, it was really good.
All right. So, with that, you've opened us up to the question of the hour. Was it life changing?
I think that there are a lot of things about it that are life changing. And I think that
That's
because
such a great answer, Azure. That's a great answer.
Just keep explaining yourself. Ignore Kara and keep explaining yourself.
well, I think it's, to be honest with you, it's like one of those things where you like as a rookie, I heard so many women talking about how life changing it was going into it. And, how like they came out of the Rebelle and they made these like huge changes in their lives and they did this and they did that. And so it was really interesting for me because I came out of the Rebelle and I, you know, felt like, okay, I don't feel like that was life changing in this like grand sense. And it was kind of great because what it did was it was kind of like, okay, like how do I make meaning out of this now? Like this is 10 days
Mm.
that like I went off grid and like at like literally kind of one of the worst points in my life to go off grid. I was closing on my very first house like that week and dealing with all this stuff and like signed a power of attorney document for my mom. And I was like, I'm out. I'm going to go do this thing and be off grid for 10 days. Hopefully I have a house when I come back. Um, so it was kind of like, how do I make meaning out of this? And it was really great because I got to like really dig in and find all
Mm.
of like the little ways where it was life changing. And it was life changing in like a myriad of small ways, not like these grand things that I thought would happen. Like I didn't come out a different person. but I
Hmm.
came out with like new perspectives on multiple things. I came out with like new appreciation for a variety of things. Um, and I don't know, it was sorry, I know that's like a terrible like wandering answer, but
No, I love it.
I don't know. I don't know. I want like Connie and I talked about this a little bit. Like she and I have been chatting, and I was just kind of like, I'm be curious to like see how you feel afterwards because and I was like because she asked me like what are the worst parts like what was blah 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 and I was like it's not a bad thing but it's just like I felt like this had been like talked up like everyone has this major life epiphany coming out of the Revel and I was like I don't really have that. I mean I learned
Hmm.
little things but a lot of really important little things. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know.
Do you think that's in correlation to because you have traveled the world and you've done so many other things? Do you think that that's kind of like, it's you have that high, like, overlanding, off-roading life experience that maybe this wasn't as much as what you've already experienced?
I mean I think maybe in terms of like life prioritization, sure. Like I think if you've spent most of your life, kind of
Corporate 9 to 5.
corporate 9 to 5, but also maybe just like not pushing boundaries, like not getting out of your
Hmm.
comfort zone. Because I think
Yeah.
that's where like the largest opportunity for learning comes from is like when we push ourselves out of our comfort zones and we push our own boundaries. And
Hmm.
I think that like I have done that a lot. I've been in some pretty dodgy situations and some situations that, really forced me to grow. And I think the Rebel just forced growth in ways that were it took deeper introspection to recognize.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this like boom, like this is wild, this is insane, and I've never been this scared before, and I've never been this lost or this blah blah blah. Blah. Like none of that happened. But it was in so many other ways that were really meaningful that I think maybe if I had just, done the corporate 9 to 5 thing and that was my first like exposure to really pushing my boundaries, maybe I wouldn't have gotten those things out of it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it was super valuable learning for me that I
That's
appreciated.
all. That's a good perspective that we haven't had answer. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I
That's
would
the
just, yeah, I don't know, want to share that with
that's
other
the
women.
the most relatable "has it changed your life" answer to me because I like you, I was like, "No." I mean, I took it, I learned from it, I made adjustments, but I'm constantly doing that in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I'm leaning towards Azure's answer. Leaning towards. I have not yet committed to life changing.
Give it a couple more episodes. She'll come back. I say it was life changing. Obviously you can see our debate, and I still am experiencing those life changes just this week. So it's
Yeah.
little things that's like it's constantly teaching me things about myself that pretty cool.
Like what? What are your like top three? I'm curious.
Oh gosh, top three.
Oh yeah, because
I
new
can
this week.
Yeah, so I can do hard things. That's like yeah, I've off-roaded and stuff too, but I feel like a lot of times in the shadow of my husband, and so like a lot of people see our channel and they see him, and I will hold your phone and take your picture together. So it's like, some people don't realize that I've been willing as long as I have. Two, I can be dirty for a really long time. Like I didn't shower that whole week. I pretty sure I wore the same pants for 4 days, and then I was like, oh God, we paid extra for media. I need to give them something. Like these poor people falling around me. I'm like, I don't know what day it is. My hair can pretty much looks like it has dry shampoo in it all the time. It's just dirt. Um, let's see. So, and then the third thing is um, standing up for myself and the direction that I want to go, personally, and then also on the grand scheme of like bigger things that just my path in the off-road space, just knowing what I want and going after it, and um, yeah, doing hard things. I think that encompasses all of it. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is, but it's not because I don't like it. Like I'm like standing up for myself, putting myself first. I'm not so sure I'm a fan of that yet.
Most people don't enjoy doing hard things.
Yeah.
We avoid them because they're hard.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
All right, let's play a game. It's called Fast Money. There's no money involved. I just need you to answer quickly.
Great.
I
Um,
always get so excited when she talks about fast money because I'm like, ooh, I expect money running down. But then she's like, oh, by the way.
no, there's no money involved.
And it's just one person, so this should be easy.
I know. All right,
Oh,
so I have a list of questions I'm going to ask, and I just want you to answer with kind of the first thing that comes to mind. They're easy
okay.
questions, don't worry. Okay, what is the first car that was ever really yours?
I had I think it was a 1992 Plymouth Laser. It was like a little like hatchbacky sports car looking thing that was really not meant to be on the snowy roads of Vermont. And I had the dings and dents to prove it within a few years.
I'm going to have to look that up. Do you have any tattoos?
I do not.
What's your day job in 3 words?
Connecting people's stories.
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. What's on your current playlist?
Ooh. Krishna Das. I grew up with
I'm gonna have
sitar
to look that
music.
up
It's,
too.
yeah.
Okay. What's the favorite vehicle you've ever owned?
And it can be two wheels.
It can be two wheels.
Yeah, that
Hands down,
qualifies as a
my
vehicle.
Honda Transalp.
What's the best sandwich?
I am a diehard peanut butter and jam fan. Not jelly, but jam.
Jam.
What's the
Coffee or tea?
difference?
Coffee.
Driver or passenger duties? This is across the board. 2 wheels, 4 wheels.
I mean, I'm going to have to say passenger duties because I really like snacks. And I
Oh,
feel like
okay.
that
And
falls
that leads
into.
us to our last question. What's your favorite trail snack?
Um, my favorite snack period is popcorn, but it's really difficult to do properly on the trail. So I will say those
Mm,
like really addicting cashews with the sesame seeds from Trader Joe's. I
okay.
feel like I just consumed all of the calories I needed at the Rebelle in those every day. I was like, I don't need the dry meal. I will just eat all of these delicious cashews.
Okay, so knowing that you
I'm a
like
trail mix person.
popcorn,
Ooh.
yeah, she's always eating the trail mix. Knowing that you like popcorn, when we connect at one of these expos this year, I'm making you popcorn.
Oh
So
yes. Okay.
Rob also likes popcorn, and I have a recipe that he dreamed up that we make in the Whirly Pop that everybody I give it to says it's the best popcorn ever.
Oh boy, I'm very, very excited. I don't even, what is a whirly pop?
I have multiple questions right now.
Oh my gosh. So a Whirly Pop, it pops popcorn like the old kind of movie theater things, but it sits on
Yeah.
the stove. So you spin it and it spins the stuff on the bottom. And so it
Mm,
pops the popcorn in like 5 minutes. It's really fast.
I love it. I am writing
Yeah.
that down. I
Yeah,
think I
you
So,
need
need
that in
enough
my
okay.
life.
popcorn. You need the Whirly Pop. You need the small kernel popcorn. And then we do it in coconut oil.
Yes.
And then butter
I'm
and
just
salt.
confused as how you have a recipe for popcorn. I'm pretty sure the only recipe I've ever had was you go and you get a like Mr. Orville's something and you throw it in the microwave.
No, I just gave you the recipe. Microwave popcorn does not compare to what I just said in the Whirly Pop. I'll have to make some for you too. I'm
I'm
surprised you
I'm
haven't
willing.
had my popcorn.
No, but I like cheddar popcorn. I like the cheese popcorn.
I do
Oh,
like cheddar pop.
we'll get the
Or
cheese
you can
shaky
mix the
stuff.
cheddar and the other the what is it caramel? It's not caramel, is it? It's
Oh
like the
no.
darker crunchy popcorn. You
Oh
can
yeah.
get the
All right.
mixtures. I think maybe it's
Oh,
caramel.
I
probably.
I had a family friend who knew, so like my dad always makes popcorn for me. It's kind of like a thing from my childhood. Because he didn't allow like any sugar or like refined anything in the house. So popcorn was always like the biggest treat ever. And so whenever I'm homesick, I make popcorn. But his friend I was visiting when I was like on some motorcycle trip on the West Coast, and he was like, "Oh, you have to have our popcorn." He was like, "You'll never taste anything like it." And I was like, "Okay,
Ooh.
well, my dad's popcorn's pretty great." And he was like, "You don't understand. they've had a popcorn pot that was a cast iron like skillet in their family for 40 years that they've never done anything but cook popcorn in, and they do not clean it.
It's so seasoned though.
So seasoned. And I was like, it was pretty darn good. Not gonna lie.
Mm. Oh, it's a popcorn throwdown. Now I need to know if mine is better.
So I'm just
I'm
so
proof.
amazed at this world that I never knew it
The
existed.
popcorn one? Oh my gosh, yeah, and there's, like, kernel sizes and colors, like, it all matters, it all matters. So the little ones
I
are
just go
hulless, so you don't get, like, that a lot of that yellow stuff that gets stuck in your teeth, like, they're hulless, so
the
it has a
kernels.
little bit of that, but it doesn't really exist when it pops.
I had no idea about the little kernels, so I'm with you,
Yeah.
Kara. I have lots more learning to do now.
I
So the
know.
best the best ones we used to get, there was an Amish store in Virginia that we would go to, and you can find that same, like, little kernel popcorn from the Amish, in some of the, like, fruit stands and stuff across the country. We find it every now and
Mhm.
then, and we stock up on it when we find it.
Okay. We have a huge Amish population here, and
Oh.
I'm going to have to go hunting for popcorn now.
Yeah. I
I will
can't
let you
remember
know.
the name of the specific kernel, but it's the tiny white ones.
Okay.
They're small and white, and they're hulless.
All right.
Mhm.
This just goes to show you that people can take something as simple as a bag popcorn and like blow your mind with whatever options there
Yeah.
are, like
Totally.
Mhm. Cheese,
Love it.
yeah,
popcorn, wine, there's small minutia to it all.
coffee, books, Legos,
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
thing.
True
Once
story.
you get into something, it's a whole new world.
Yeah,
Lots of
Um,
rabbit.
facts.
yeah. So are you and Ava, I always say her name wrong. I just call her Eva, but I think her name is Ava.
No,
It's
you're right.
Mhm.
Oh, you guys have any like training plans, going in any classes or practice weekends or
So we're trying to figure that out right now. We both have kind of crazy busy different event summers. So figuring out like which trainings we can rendezvous at is always a bit of a challenge. But we do have like a weekly rebel call that we do, and we mainly do that to kind of hold ourselves accountable. And so she'll send me some points to plot every week, and I plot them, and then we like verify that I've plotted them in the correct spot. So that's been kind of a fun way for us to practice and stay connected on that. And
I
then
like that
we're,
idea.
yeah, it's great. It's really good just because I feel like if you don't plot points for a length of time, it just like takes so much more time and mental energy to be like, oh, wait, what? And so it's just easy if we just like kind of stay on top of it and
Yeah,
before the rally we ramp it up and I do points every day. So that's really fun for us. But I think before Overland Expo West, we're going to catch up for a weekend just right outside of Phoenix and do some playing around and camp together and you know find some
fun?
points in the desert and just hang
Yeah.
out. So looking
do
forward to
y'all
that.
get
So
to
if
keep the
anyone wants
truck?
to join us. Sorry.
Do you get to keep the truck? Are you taking that vehicle there? Like, how does that
So
work?
yeah, it's actually worked out really well. Mark has a business in Phoenix that, or just outside of Phoenix, that he leaves the truck at. So when he's in town for business, he has transportation. And then,
Okay,
whenever Eva and I are able to catch up, we just go and grab it and drive out into the desert. So works
awesome.
really well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm
So
excited.
I read in Ashley's article that last year your goal was to get all of the blues and greens. So my question is, did you try for any blacks last year, and what is your strategy for this year?
So we did try for some blacks last year. I cannot remember our rate of success or failure. But I think our strategy is similar, but I think we want to make sure that like now that I feel like as a rookie, like going into your first year, there's just so much energy, like mental and physical energy that gets wasted on all of the unknowns of being a rookie.
Mhm.
And so I feel like coming out of that, like I think we'll just have a lot more energy to focus on, okay, like if we are, if we click for a black and, we see that we're here and we're not there, like how are we figuring out how many paces we need to go to get, within the bullseye? So I think that's kind of our strategy for our practice leading up to the
Mhm.
Rebelle. I don't think that we've like dialed in exactly what our strategy is going to be yet, but probably still, blues and
Yeah,
greens
I
first
love
and
that.
foremost.
It's
But
fun.
Yeah.
I also
And
like want to be more decisive, because that was like one of the, when I talked about like all the little things that I learned,
mhm.
like I spent a lot of time and energy in my life being indecisive and like not committing to a decision. And I
Hmm.
think like as a navigator in the Rebelle, that was probably like my biggest handicap, was just questioning myself and like being like, oh, I don't know if this is right. Oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So I think just like being more decisive about, our plots and points, and trusting myself more. That was a
I'm sure
big,
Yeah.
that was
big takeaway.
I'm I'm sure that was hard for you because like having those decisions, it's also, they say, the navigator can get you lost, the driver can get you killed kind of thing. So like, as the navigator being sure of your points or whatever and walking in that is hard because then if you're wrong you don't want to have the conflict because
Mhm.
you said you don't like conflict either, and so that's like you try to avoid that at all costs, but then you're having to make the decision. So it's that's a whole new process for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really interesting. It definitely, I think, was the pointed out and like highlighted the largest like learning for me from the Rebelle, was just kind of like, whoa, you really waste a lot of time and energy in life
Second
hemming and
guessing.
hawing. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Part of my year two goals going in from my retrospective year one was the same. Like, I would, in my year one, I would get to somewhere and I would look around and I would look around and I would look at the map and I would look around and I would look around. And what I realized is if I haven't figured it out in the first 3 minutes, 7 more minutes of looking at that map ain't going to change a whole lot for
Yeah.
me. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a very common like year 1 to year 2 kind of transition is realizing that. And then I know for me, like the decision fatigue as the day goes on, it gets crazy. Or like if you're going for blacks and you've had a really good day, like the pressure to click that button, because if you're wrong, like you could get your first wide miss of the day with 3 checkpoints left. Like that kind of pressure to me is just crushing. Like even still, like if it's towards the end of the day, I'm like, oh, just push the button, just push the button, just push the button. Did you push the button? What does it say? What does it say? I'm like, oh my God, I can't take it. Yeah. And I'll get to like, they'll be like, my teammates will be like, do you think we're there? And if I say I think we're 90% there, like you should probably push the button. And I'll be like, I don't know. I'm only feeling like 90%. And they're like,
Do
okay,
it.
we're clicking the button. And I'm like, no, oh my gosh. But
Sometimes
yeah,
those the clickers are like the magic 8 ball. You're just like looking at it like, am I right? Did I do good?
oh my gosh. As the navigator, it's always the magic 8 ball. Like
Yeah.
always. I never feel like I'm going to push that button and it's going to say exactly the right, like even at the greens, I'm like, what does it say? Am I where I think I am? And I'm never really lost. I might not know exactly where I am, but I'm never really lost, the few times that I've been kind of turned around. But yeah, it's that like, oh my gosh, the fatigue and stress of that stupid yellow brick clicker gets me. It really gets me. Only last year did I start actually pushing the button on my own because I realized sometimes the flag is on my side of the car and it's faster for me to just click the button, but I do not like it. Do not like it.
What are your goals for this year?
My top goal is to find a teammate because I was on a team and now I am no longer. But should I find a teammate, my goals will be definitely just pushing the pace, kind of the same thing.
All right.
Um, doing everything a little faster and more accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. What are yours,
Yeah.
Kara?
This year it's compete, even more so than last year, but not so much that I forget to have fun. So finding that balance. And then I'm competing with Holly Casey this year. So just learning our dynamic and just enjoying each other.
Cool. That's great.
Kara left
I'm
out a
excited.
goal. She's trying to improve her navigation skills as well,
Oh,
to be a
yes.
better teammate. Not to be a
Yes.
navigator, mind you, to be a better teammate.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent a week out last week with Patty Upton and Avis and doing a practice. And I'm pretty proud. I'm just gonna say that. I'm a
Fantastic.
I'm a
Oh my
backseat
gosh.
navigator, driver, snack giver, singer. I'm just can do so many things.
Love
From the
it.
back seat, it's amazing. Oh my gosh, Kara and Patty
Oh,
and I
and I
had
can drive
so
a
many
manual
belly laughs. Oh, that's right. I taught Kara how to drive a manual.
That's freaking amazing. In a weekend? That's
a week.
awesome.
A
A
week.
week.
So
Okay.
Monday through Friday.
Oh my goodness. You guys are
She
awesome.
drove only like 2 days, but she's a natural. She knew how to do it. I mean, I think most motorcycle riders, like, once you just put them in the driver's seat and explain it, they're like, "Oh, yeah." I
This
mean,
does.
they you already have the concept, it's just using different body parts to accomplish the same goal now.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't, yeah, reverse engineering it. And that makes sense. But that's great.
It
That's so
was
cool.
fun. It was really fun.
It's a
Yeah,
great skill to have too.
yeah. I think everybody should learn to drive a manual. It's a tool. It's another tool in your toolbox. That's the only reason I ever wanted to learn how to ride a dirt bike. I don't know if you know this, but I have this weird list of zombie apocalypse skills. And so let's
Oh.
say the world breaks down because of a zombie outbreak and I break into a deserted garage. I'm not breaking into anybody's garage that's occupying their home, but I break into a deserted garage and all that's in there are dirt bikes and Rob and I want to take them both. I need to know how to ride one.
Love it.
Mission
That's brilliant.
accomplished.
Well
So
done.
everybody should learn how to drive a manual as well. What if you break into my unoccupied garage and my Tacoma is the only thing in there? You better know how to drive that manual.
There you go.
Just saying. All
I'm gonna
right.
switch to the whole zombie apocalypse thing. Are we doing the Women Who Wonder at the Overland Expos this year?
Yes, ma'am. I'm, yeah, super pumped. And it was great. And thank you both for being a part of that last year and just helping kick off such a strong program and just activation for the community. I mean, that sounds so like wah, 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 but it
Yeah.
just really, the feedback that we got afterwards last year and just like personal stories, people would come up to me and tell me, it was just so indicative of the fact that it's something like the community really needs. I think people took a lot of meaning from it. You know, so many friendships were formed. It's been really awesome to see. And we just launched like our SoCal event 2 weekends ago, and we had like a much smaller education set up there because I was like, you know, new
It's
event, not
new.
sure what to
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
But we did, you know, a Women Who Wander networking event every day, and it was super well attended. And the women who came were just really engaged and really stoked to just like build the community in like meaningful, actionable ways, which was awesome to see.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, really excited. We're at every single event this year. Beyond, you know, after SoCal, we're going to have the pavilion where you have education all weekend long. And then also like the networking event. So at West, we're planning on like a morning kind of event, just because there's so much happening at night. We want to make sure that we're not competing with evening events. But I'm really excited. It was a huge highlight of last year for
I'm
me.
pumped.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So can't wait for you both to join up again.
I know.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, that kind of rounds out our hour. We've gone a little over. It's great conversation. Azure, we
Oh,
really
nice.
appreciate your time with us today and all of your great stories.
Well, thank you both so much for having me join you. It's an honor. And just getting to share a little bit of time with you is definitely a highlight of my week. So thank you
Oh,
so
thank you.
much.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing you at expos and on that Rebel starting line.
Can't wait.
Let's
All
go.
right.
All right. Have a great afternoon,
Bye.
ladies.